Welcome to your crappy life married to Henry VIII. So you thought the chaos stopped with Catherine of Aragon and Anne Boleyn? How adorable. Well, the rest of his affluent stable was rode just as hard and royally screwed in ways that had nothing to do with romance. Just when you thought old Henry couldn't do any worse, wait until you hear what happened to the youngest of the queens, Catherine Howard. Jane Seymour died without a court order. You're Jane Seymour, the woman who watched Anne Boleyn get beheaded and thought, yeah, I could totally fix him with my magical baby maker. You absolutely could not. You start as Anne Boleyn's lady-in-waiting, which means you're literally living 10 feet from a woman whose days are numbered, and you can hear the executioner sharpening his blade while she's still eating breakfast. Your family sees the opening and goes full stage mom mode. Your brothers become your personal coaching squad, teaching you exactly how to play Henry's fragile ego. The strategy simply is weaponized virginity with industrial strength chastity. Don't sleep with him, don't even let him get to first base. Act like touching his royal equipment would send you straight to eternal damnation, and your virtue is guarded by heavenly bouncers. Return his love letters unopened, give back his gold, clutch your pearls so hard they practically fuse to your skin. Tell him your honour is worth more than his crown, and your flower garden is closed for business indefinitely. Henry loses his entire mind and probably all function below the waist from sheer frustration. 11 days after Anne's head rolls off the scaffold, 11 days, you're married. That's the Tudor equivalent of proposing at your ex's funeral while her body's still warm and you're already measuring the bed for new sheets. Classy? Not even close. Desperate? Absolutely. As queen, you're the anti-Anne in every way. No cleavage, no sass, no personality, no hint that you even know what the royal wood is actually for. You already know that Henry doesn't want a partner. He wants a baby machine with a warranty and a tight enough seal to guarantee results. You get pregnant and suddenly you're England's most important vessel with a handle with extreme care sign. Henry treats you like fragile china, filled with his genetic future and possibly his last working swimmers. Your cravings get so wild that he imports quail from France. Your bedroom gets redecorated like a medical nightmare. Tapestries blocking every window, curtains everywhere choking the air, zero ventilation. It's basically a velvet oven designed to slow cook a baby and your organs. You give birth to Edward VI after hours of screaming and probably splitting in ways no woman should experience. Finally, a son. Mission accomplished. Henry's thrilled and already planning celebrations that completely ignore your shredded body. You're bleeding, infected, feverish and quietly dying while everyone celebrates the air and forgets about your rotting insides. 12 days later, you're gone. Some say it's botched surgery, others whisper poisoned quail. Doesn't matter, you're cold either way. But here's the twisted part, you become Henry's favourite wife forever. Not because he loved you, not because you rocked his world in the bedchamber, but because you died before you could age, nag, get saggy, stop performing wifey duties, or fail to produce more heirs. You're buried next to him, romanticised as pure, loyal, perfect, the ultimate dutiful vessel who knew her place and vacated it on schedule. And your ghost is still wandering Windsor Castle, checking on the son who literally ended you on his way into the world. Jane Seymour didn't win by living, she won by dying at exactly the right moment, with Henry's heir between her legs and her mouth permanently shut. And Henry? Well, he mourns for maybe 3 weeks. Then his grief transforms into hunger, and he decides the cure for a dead wife is international shopping with even worse judgment than a drunk man in a gentleman's club. Well, he's about to get catfished harder than a medieval dating app disaster. Anne of Cleves escaped with her life. So you're Anne of Cleves, the only wife in this bloody franchise who walks away alive, loaded and living her best life while everyone else is either dead or traumatised. Your entire disaster story starts with a horny painting. Henry VIII is swiping through the Renaissance Tinder when his artist Hans Holbein slides him a portrait of you looking calm, symmetrical, and extremely ready to consummate a political alliance by 16th century standards. Henry takes one look and thinks, yeah, I'd absolutely wreck that treaty with my royal battering ram. So he proposes without any test drive or even seeing the merchandise in person. Already the reddest of flags. It only gets worse when he realises how German you are and can't speak English. When you finally arrive in England, Henry decides to pull off a romantic surprise. He shows up in disguise, sweaty, obese, reeking of leg ulcers, and lunges at you like a desperate walrus, and expects you to drop your petticoats immediately. You don't drop anything. You recoil in horror. Because, from your perspective, some random bloated stranger who smells like death's backside just tried to mount you without introduction. So you basically just friend-zoned the most dangerous man in England by accident, but you failed the test for not recognising him as your true love. Henry is destroyed, and his male ego gets hurt real bad. His royal lance refuses to rise to the occasion, and instead of admitting he's the problem, he does what fragile men have done since the dawn of time. Blames you. Suddenly you're ugly, you smell bad, your chest is saggy, you look like a Flanders mare who couldn't arouse a sailor on shore leave. Meanwhile, this man needs a crane to hoist himself onto the royal throne and smells like a plague pit marinated in rancid butter. But sure, Anne, you're the problem. The wedding night is a catastrophe, mostly because you think sex is just aggressive cuddling, a polite peck and maybe some hand-holding under the covers. You genuinely ask your ladies-in-waiting, "We spooned and he kissed me. Isn't that how you make heirs?" Henry hears about this and realises he's found a miracle. A way out without committing murder, because even he can't behead someone for not knowing where the royal sword goes. For once in his pathetic life, Henry chooses the coward's exit instead of the executioner's. The annulment comes fast. You're summoned and immediately faint, convinced you're about to lose your head like Anne Boleyn or your dignity like everyone else who's seen Henry naked. Well, you're not. Instead, you get castles, piles of cash, staff, a fat permanent allowance, and the title The King's Beloved Sister, which is Tudor code for please never mention that I couldn't get it up and you didn't even know what it was. You become richer than most of his actual kids. You party at court like you're rubbing it in. You outlive him by years. You attend his next wife's weddings like you're watching a reality show you brilliantly dodged by being clueless in bed. While the other wives are getting beheaded, buried or destroyed by pushing out his spawn, you're living in luxury, eating well, sleeping soundly, and basically winning at life by being history's luckiest virgin divorcee. You die peacefully in your own bed at 41, the ultimate power move in Tudor England where most women get screwed literally, figuratively, or fatally. So remember this, you were smart enough to accidentally kill his boner and live to tell the tale. And in Henry VIII's England, that's a damn victory. But Henry VIII doesn't stay down for long, or at all really. The second his royal equipment fails with you, he's already shopping for a replacement to restore his ego. And boy does he find one who exceeded expectations, until she exceeded them a little too much with everyone else. Your crappy life as Catherine Howard, youngest to beheaded. Your cousin to Anne Boleyn, which says your bloodline must come with an aphrodisiac that drove Henry wild with desire, and a final destination curse on your head. You're young, smoking hot, uneducated, and surrounded by adults who treat consent like a fairy tale, and your body like a public playground with no admission fee. You're born into the Howard family, a bloodline so thirsty for power they'd auction off their own grandmother's virtue if it got them closer to the throne and Henry's royal jewels. You're not raised to be safe, you're raised to be bait with a pulse and assets men can't stop staring at. Your childhood home is a Tudor frat house with zero supervision, unlocked bedrooms, and more action than a brothel during shore leave. Teenagers getting busy everywhere you look. Doors unlocked, chaperones non-existent, morals set to do whatever feels good. Older men notice you early, way too early, and nobody stops them from eyeing the merchandise or sampling the goods. For instance, it was rumoured you had a little something with your music teacher, Henry Mannix. Then there's Francis Dereham, your grandmother's secretary who you referred to as my husband in private. In Tudor England, grooming wasn't a crime. It was foreplay with a power imbalance and zero consequences. In fact, you were in the wrong place at the wrong time catching Henry's eye as lady-in-waiting for Anne of Cleves. By the time you hit court, you're not innocent. You're just clueless about consequences, which is infinitely more dangerous when you're built like a Renaissance painting come to life. You don't understand politics, you don't understand power games, and you definitely don't understand that Henry VIII is looking at you like you're his personal arousal remedy with legs and everything else he's dreaming about. Henry is pushing 50. He's rotting from the inside. He's furious his royal equipment needs industrial machinery and divine intervention to stand at attention. And when he sees you, young, giggly, tight in all the right places, his decomposing brain goes, yes, fresh goods, this'll resurrect my dead soldier. And it absolutely does not. He marries you at lightning speed, like delete the search history, hide the evidence and propose before anyone else asks questions. He calls you his rose without a thorn, which is Tudor code for I'm not asking about your body count because ignorance keeps my lance semi-functional. You're dressed up, shown off and praised for being bubbly, obedient and fun. Exactly the traits men worship when they want a plaything, not a person with opinions. And for a minute, you're living the ultimate fantasy with benefits. You dance, you flirt, bounce around and make a decaying king feel like his member still has a pulse, which is the most dangerous aphrodisiac in human history for fragile male egos. The court relaxes. Henry grins like he's got his mojo back. Everyone ignores the smell of death mixed with desperation and failed bedroom attempts. But then your life at the Howard frat house walks in with forgotten OnlyFans receipts and videos you can't delete. Sprinkle in a little betrayal from an old childhood friend, Mary Lascelles, sharing too much about old hookups and messy history. People start to believe you weren't delivered to the palace vacuum sealed and virginal for exclusive royal use. The Archbishop Cranmer catches wind informing Henry, and suddenly your bedroom history becomes a national scandal, because in Tudor England, women's bodies are public property with aggressive performance reviews by jealous slut-shaming committees. Here's the sick punchline. You're not accused of riding someone else's queen, you're accused of having your roses trimmed before Henry got there. And apparently that's treason punishable by losing your head by king decree. The investigation becomes a perverted witch hunt obsessed with your sexual resume. Everyone's snitching, everyone's talking about who touched you, where, when and how thoroughly they explored the territory. People who used to kiss your hand now treat you like a contaminated vessel covered in shame and other people's fingerprints. And Henry? Well, Henry won't even look at your previously worshipped body. This is the same man who showered you with jewellery, groped you at dinner like you were dessert, and now he's acting like you personally neutered him with your sexual past. Not because you betrayed him, but because you weren't his untouched virgin fantasy with an intact seal of approval. And that's a death sentence for daring to have a body before marriage. You're arrested, isolated, interrogated like a common prostitute, stripped of your jewellery, your title, your dignity, your pleasure, even your damn dog, because apparently justice requires maximum emotional castration. Your final days are nightmare-fueled, drenched in terror. You beg for mercy, you pray until your knees bleed, you rehearse your own beheading because even your execution needs a performance review now. History calls you hysterical, but honestly, if your bedroom count was about to literally get you killed by an axe, you'd lose it too. And then it's over before you hit 20. Your final words are subject of legend, with some saying you uttered the phrase, "I'd die a queen, but I would rather die the wife of Culpeper." Others believe your ghost continues to haunt the Hampton Court Palace, the haunted gallery, where you allegedly ran to beg Henry for mercy. And that's the crappiest, most hypocritical crown of all. Catherine Parr, I'm a survivor! Or was it just good timing? So you're Catherine Parr, and by the time Henry VIII notices you, you're already on husband number 3. Which in Tudor England means you're either cursed, blessed, or so incredible between the sheets that men keep risking death for another ride on your matrimonial carousel. You don't want Henry, you want peace, a library, a man whose body doesn't smell like a Sasquatch fart. Instead, you get Henry VIII, now less king and more haunted leather sack of rotting meat with a crown. He's bloated like a dead whale, he's paranoid, his leg oozes like Satan's septic tank, and somehow this walking biohazard still thinks every woman in the room is desperate to climb aboard his diseased carnival ride. Spoiler, they'd rather gargle arsenic. You marry him anyway because refusing Henry is how women turn into decorative lawn ornaments missing their heads. This is your new role. Queen, nurse, emotional support animal, therapist and full-time ego stroker for a man whose actual stroking days are long behind him. You don't seduce Henry, you manage him like a temperamental toddler with execution powers. You smile while he rants, you nod while he contradicts himself, you compliment his non-existent performance during conversations that smell like death marinated in gravy. And bedroom activities, well, let's be honest, this is less passionate lovemaking and more historical reenactment of Weekend at Bernie's. Your idea of foreplay is praying he passes out before his royal lance makes a disappointing cameo appearance. But here's the thing. Unlike the other wives, you're not stupid or naive about Henry's limp situation. You're terrifyingly literate. You read scripture. You write books. You debate theology like a woman who knows words can get her burned and uses them anyway because your brain is too big for Tudor misogyny. You're out here publishing under your own name, which in Tudor England is basically screaming, I have thoughts and lady parts, come at me, fragile men. Henry does come at you. At one point, he literally signs your execution order for heresy because you dared suggest thinking while female. So what do? You don't panic, you don't double down. You perform an Oscar-worthy act worthy of awards. You show up sweet, submissive, breathless. You tell him you only debated religion because you're a silly little woman, trying to distract his royal appendage from his constant pain with intellectual stimulation. Translation? Relax, big guy, I was just massaging your ego, not rewriting Christianity or questioning your bedroom failures. Henry swallows it like it's divine truth. Execution cancelled, crisis averted, your head stays attached to your body. Then, miracle of miracles, Henry finally kicks the bucket and stops terrorising England's female population. And the room immediately smells better, functions better, and everyone's relieved his reign of erectile terror is over. 4 months later, you remarry Thomas Seymour, Jane's hot brother, because nothing says I've healed like jumping onto the first handsome disaster with functional equipment and zero self-control. This man is charming, perpetually aroused, ambitious, and allergic to appropriate boundaries. Your household turns into scandal central. Everyone's uncomfortable, personal space is optional, history starts squinting suspiciously at what's happening behind closed doors. Then you get pregnant at 36, a Tudor jump scare since most women your age are considered ancient relics past their expiration date for childbearing. 8 days after childbirth you die of infection, allegedly whispering that your husband poisoned you while everyone else suddenly finds the ceiling absolutely riveting. Still, you won. You survived Henry's rotting body and worse personality. You published books. You ruled with actual brains. You played dumb when it saved your neck and brilliant when it mattered most, navigating a court where intelligence was dangerous for anyone without dangly bits. In a court where women died for being attractive, quiet, loud, fertile, barren, loyal, or simply breathing wrong, Catherine Parr lived by mastering the most dangerous skill. Knowing when to shut up and stroke the ego, and when to outthink every man in the room while they underestimated your supposedly inferior female brain. And that's the other 4 wives of Henry VIII, women who ruled, endured, negotiated, survived, and in Catherine Howard's case, paid the ultimate price for being young in a court run by horny, insecure men with axes. So remember this, loyal subjects, in Tudor England, men wrote the rules, broke the rules, blamed women for the rules, and then sharpened the blade when their feelings got hurt. Like, subscribe, and pray you never marry a man who solves his problems by inventing religions and deleting wives.